Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time, this is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin!
So when it comes to moving forward, when you live in a state as partisan as ours, or a country as partisan as ours, is it an eye for an eye or turn the other cheek? 844-967-2789. And I am excited to hear your thoughts on this because, boy, did I miss some drama while I was out of the state.
There were things.
There were things that happened. So I'm back. We are live. Thank you for anyone who missed the memo and still listened on Thursday and Friday.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that. But I am back. I survived being sober and pregnant in Vegas. TBD if my husband survived not being sober and pregnant in Vegas. But, while I was there, I spent a fair amount of time scrolling through my phone while other people were drinking and gambling. And I was like, I don't do those things right now.
Right.
And the drama unfolding and the Republican meltdowns I was seeing, the cry about it harder, the Democrat memes I was seeing, of everything that happened in the aftermath of Justice Janet Protasewicz being sworn in Tuesday night. And a lot happened since then. And I want to get into it. I want to piece together what I can from the timeline of everything that happened. Jane's going to help me since she was here following all of it. But what I was also left with, and this both goes for Wisconsin, certainly, but also the country, of the cycle of whataboutism, having the receipts of bad behavior in the past from the other side that then justifies, well, you did this in the past and we can do this now, and lowering the bar of standards for different institutions and procedures. And if it's legal, we can do it. This is politics.
It might not be right, but we can do it.
Yeah. And I'm not saying the timeline we're going to go through from the liberal justices and what they've done in less than a week. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done it. I'm not saying it's not in their right to do it. But how it's being painted is certainly as political revenge or overstepping and retaliatory, unprecedented, all these different, dramatic words. And certainly if, say we do get new maps, which that lawsuit was filed, which we'll talk about in a second. Right away. And somehow Democrats got the majority again. How much of that would be called retaliatory? How much of that is, bridge making in the attempt to move forward versus we finally got the majority back? And so I guess I'm just interested from you listening to use Christian metaphors. Is it an eye for an eye? An Old Testament, whoever has the power has the power? Or in the attempt to try to get back to more normalcy and bipartisanship, compromise, is it turn the other cheek? 844-967-2789. Jane, do you have, I don't know how you would answer this.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this either. I mean, I think back to Todd Albaugh, who has the wonderful Todd Albaugh Show from 1 to 3 here on the Civic Media Network. He was a Republican for 30 years. And then it came down to this closed door meeting where they were gleeful, his fellow Republicans, about disenfranchising voters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what finally prompted him to leave the Republican Party. And I don't want to be that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be, well, we can do it to you now. I don't think
you don't want to be the party that then somehow finds a way to disenfranchise Republican voters.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole idea of actually having maps that are fair. And I do believe that Wisconsinites, in their heart of hearts, we don't like cheaters, and we want a fair shot for both sides. And so I can certainly understand they did that bad behavior when they had all the power. Now it's our turn, but that doesn't make anything better. And I'm not saying that the moves that were taken by the liberal justices were completely off the wall. From what I understand, they want to make some meetings public again.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing.
So let's get into that. Because again, some of this is spin. Some of this is, how can we paint this to make them look bad? And some of this, I think, is so in the weeds that there's a lot of people who have no idea this even really happened, or at least some of the more procedural things that happened. So let's go through. But the question is, and I do want to hear from you, when it comes to political partisanship and moving forward and doing the things that we all say we want to do, which is bipartisanship, compromise, not everyone, but most of us, getting things done, focusing on the issues that majority of Wisconsinites or Americans are worried about. Is it an eye for an eye or turn the other cheek when the other party gets into power?
Or is there another alternative that we're missing?
That too. 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-party. So I did my best, and I don't even think I had enough time to actually
do everything,
because I got back late Saturday. Was getting stuff ready for today, but trying to sift through everything that happened. So this is the best I can do as far as the timeline I've pieced together. So Tuesday night, Janet Protasiewicz gets sworn in. I was still here. It was in the rotunda.
Right.
Lots of people were there. Fairly undramatic. So then Wednesday, we did a live show, and then I left basically right after our show to get to Vegas. And so by the time I landed in Vegas, I opened my email or I opened my Twitter or whatever, and it was like, all right, the lawsuit is here. The lawsuit challenging the maps filed less than 24 hours after Protasiewicz was sworn in. Let's go. And it was, presented by exactly who we knew it would be, Law Forward, which is a liberal liberal law firm. We're going to have their executive director, Nicole Safar, on the show tomorrow. So we can talk more about the case, the specifics of the case, why just doing the legislature and not doing Congress, because that is part of it. Also, the part that I found super interesting is that if this passes, or basically if they get everything that they've filed, I know I'm not using the right words right now, that all Senate seats would be up for 2024. Did you not realize that?
No.
So basically, and we'll talk about this with Nicole tomorrow of how legally this would work. But normally, every 2 years, all 99 seats in the assembly are up and half of the Senate is up. So, but if this passes, all 36 seats would be up in 2024.
Oh, wow.
And so that is a potential for a lot of recruitment for a lot of candidates. So if there was ever a time that you were ever thinking about running, keep your eye on this case, because there could be a lot of seats open next fall.
And actually competitive.
And some will probably still be pretty blue or pretty red, but some could be very competitive. So that happens Wednesday. Not shockingly, I think Devin LeMahieu put out the state majority leader, a Senate majority leader, put out a statement saying, this is too soon. This is, politics, blah, blah, blah. I stand by our maps. But on top of that, and this is where things start to get in the weeds that I don't know if people know as much about. So one day after the swearing in of Janet Protasiewicz, Randy Koshnick, who was the director of the state's court systems, basically started making noise that he was going to get fired. And this is where I started to see the Twitter wars ruminate. So what I know about, the director of the state courts is the top non-judicial officer of the state court system and has the authority for all overall management of the court system. It's a position that works with the justices, chief justice, and staff, and it seems like it's a pretty big position.
Big gig. Yeah.
And it's usually appointed. And so the new liberal majority informed him that his services would no longer be needed.
So can I just ask a question quickly? So the conservative majority appointed this person.
I don't even know if it's conservative majority. I think he was appointed by Roggensack as the chief justice.
Okay, and Patience Roggensack is
Was
a Republican.
He was conservative, yeah.
Okay. So it's not unheard of that this would happen.
No, it's not unheard of when there is a new administration that there are new appointees. Not that this is necessarily like that better align with that majority or that administration, right? I mean, we all sat on. I mean, how many different appointees did Evers never get approved?
150.
Thank you. Is that the actual number?
I believe it is.
Okay. And
I'm still irritated by that.
And so it was people who it was within his right to appoint new people, but because that didn't get approved. So, again, this is the whataboutism. This is the tick for tat. But it's not unheard of that when there is a new majority, maybe in the courts it's less common, but certainly in administrations, that if your party loses, you might lose your job.
There are consequences.
So that's the first thing that happens. We have to go to a break, but I'll start to continue to piece together. And feel free to let me know which parts of this I missed, or any good hot take tweets or that I missed through all of this, because it feels like a lot happened. It's a bad week to miss, bad week to be on vacation, or maybe a great week to be on vacation. But also, just as we are continuing to ask, when it comes to partisan politics, is it an eye for an eye or turn the other cheek in the attempt to move forward? This is As Goes Wisconsin, 844-967-2789. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristen Bride. She is Jane Madnair. And we are piecing together the drama that unfolded in the very quick aftermath of Janet Protasewicz being sworn in last Tuesday. And I was witnessing this, or trying to keep track of it, while in Vegas for my husband's 40th birthday. And kind of just left with the feeling of, whether it's in the state politics or whether it's in the country, when there is a changing of the guards and a minority becomes a majority, how much of it is eye for an eye and how much of it is turn the other cheek in the attempt to move forward, versus not retribution, but what you, I think, from your point of view as the new majority, righting some wrongs, and regardless of how the other side is going to feel about it. 844-967-2789. Would love to hear from you on, maybe specifically stuff that happened with the Supreme Court last week, which we're still trying to piece together the timeline, or the bigger question of partisan politics. And is it so much about your side winning, and then that side, because it's legal, can do what they want? 844-967-2789.
From the 920, listening on our station on WGBW, it depends on the scale of the offense. For little things, turn the other cheek, but you have to overturn the rules and restore people's rights that have been taken away. And another one from the 312, listening here on WAUK. The conservatives are anything but. All I, super lefty, want are fair maps. When a party gets a majority of votes but can never implement what their voters want, that is the definition of minority rule.
So take that to its next conclusion of, so many people want that, right? So many people want fair maps.
Yes.
Like you said, Wisconsinites believe in fairness, and
we don't like cheaters.
So, hypothetical, what if it just swung the other way this time? At least say the lawsuit that was filed last week, less than 24 hours after Janet was sworn in, and the new map was super gerrymandered for Democrats. Is that just as bad, and would people be just as angry? Or is it become, well, It's politics. I would be furious. I would be furious if we ended up just getting super gerrymandered Democratic maps instead of congruous. God, what's the word that I'm looking for? Congruent.
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 Yes, that's a word.
Is that the word that I'm looking for when it's the districts are congruent?
Yes.
Okay.
They're attached to each other. Right?
They're attached to each other. Yeah, and that's actually part of the lawsuit. But representative, keeping communities together, the things that actually are supposed to be part of making fair maps that are representative. I'm not as upset about some of the things that happened last week. It's just interesting to me how they're being framed.
Oh, for sure.
And how many people will buy that framing hook, line, and sinker and just...
Well, it's easier. You don't have to learn anything.
That's true. But interested to hear from you. 844-967-2789.
Tom from West Dallas is joining us. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, ladies. I just wanted to say that I believe that we are doing right, that we're doing what should be right. The whole gerrymandering thing that was done by them that made the unfair maps and everything, they are mad now because that's going to change. And I see it as it's not retribution, not eye for eye. It's just we are doing what should have been done. It should be the way it is, not the way they want it. But they are going to do everything they can to spin it that we are the bad guys and look what we're doing to the state.
Absolutely. So then taking it from fair maps and talking about some of the things that actually happened last week, like the firing of the state courts director, Randy Koshnick. Do you have feelings on that and like whether or not that was warranted?
I believe it was because, again, he put in stuff or he worked on stuff that did not benefit the state. It benefited their party.
And then what about the other big thing that we haven't gotten to that they did as far as creating a new administrative committee to give it the powers that were once held by the Chief Justice? Also fair game?
I think that should be done too, because
all right,
that was the way it has always been, and they changed it. So let's put it back to the way it was because that worked.
All right.
And the same with the open meetings, the meetings that they want to hold in public now, right? Because that was legal too.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Let's get the public back involved. Let's get the voters back involved and not just what they want.
There you go. All right. Thanks for
a
the
lot,
call, Tom.
844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY if you ever want to check in.
So I don't want to get too deep into it because we'll get back to it after the break. But that was then the next step. So basically, so far where we are in the timeline, Tuesday, Justice Janet Protasiewicz gets sworn in. Wednesday, the redistricting lawsuit gets filed. Randy Koshnick gets fired. People are very upset about that, including Chief Justice Ziegler, who I think she said something along the lines of a dangerous conduct that the full court did not agree to.
Ooh.
And then the interim courts director was named, but Robin Voss and Devin Lemieux tried to say that that was not constitutional because of the position she currently holds. And then on Friday, the court's 4 liberal justices voted to limit the power of its conservative chief justice, a move that leader called an attempt to gut her constitutional authority by rogue justices.
Sounds like something they tried to do to the governor.
So we will talk more about that when we come back. This is As Goes Wisconsin. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristen Bry. She's Janet. She's not Janet Protasiewicz. She's Jane Matnair.
But you can pretend
I am. You can pretend. And contiguous. Thank you to the texter who corrected me on the word. Then we can add that to our openers where the words we stumble over
that escape us. Yes.
But I am trying to rehash and collect my thoughts on everything that went down last week. It was a very heavy news week as far as politics in Wisconsin goes after the Wisconsin Supreme Court switched to a liberal majority, and multiple parties wasted no time to take advantage of that liberal majority, including what we expected. maybe not as fast as it was, but certainly within the first 24 hours, the redistricting lawsuit that we knew was coming came. The state courts director, Randy Koshnick, was fired. And the new Liberal majority moved to create a new committee that would take some of the powers once held by the Chief Justice.
It still includes the Chief Justice, from what I understand, right?
Yeah. But moving it to committee. And so among those changes is the creation of a new Supreme Court Administrative Committee. The Liberal majority then voted to give that committee a number of responsibilities that once belonged to the Chief Justice. The rules change also strip the Chief Justice of their power to appoint members of the court's planning and policy. Those appointments are now to be made by the new committee. As you might imagine, Chief Justice Annette Ziegler, not happy.
Yeah.
Not happy. And basically it was just dueling press releases, because as of until this morning, no one had actually, at least in all the articles I read between WPR, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, all the reporting that was done, no one had given statements to the media. It had only been press releases, basically sniping back and forth between Ziegler and Dallatt of what really happened. Because Ziegler tried to frame this as
it was a rogue meeting.
Rogue justices.
It was a
secretive meeting. And then Dallatt came with receipts saying, we invited you to this meeting months ago.
Yeah, several, and they had
you refused to come.
And several different date options as well.
And so this is all getting framed, depending on who you talk to, as far as totally legitimate and within their right, versus Republicans and conservatives and media aligned with that party wanting to frame this as unprecedented, unconstitutional,
power grab,
political revenge. And whether you agree with that or not, is there ever a point where we get to bygones be bygones, let's move forward? I don't think so, at least at this rate. But asking you, is it, when it comes to politics and our court system now, when there's a turning tides of a majority, should it be an eye for an eye and you did this, so now we can do this? Or is it turning the other cheek in the attempt to restore what once was? 844-967-2789.
Texture checking in from the 262. I think most people want to build bridges and everyone to get along. Having said that, the Wisconsin GOP has given no indication they are willing to do anything to find common ground. Screw them.
Really? Is that what it says?
It does. I try to be very verbatim as much as humanly possible.
As much as we can, without getting fined.
And then 312 checking in, listening here on WAUK. The Wisconsin conservatives have evidently forgotten the years 2010 through 2018, and includes a link to a Twitter
a tweet or an X.
I don't call it. I will never call it that. Sue me, Elmo. Called the Golden Sir. Me sowing. Ha ha. Blank. Yes, this is great. Yes. Me reaping. Well, this really sucks. What the hell?
Yeah, and I think that was a lot of the exchanges I saw, right? I saw a lot of whining and complaining from different conservatives and Republicans about everything that was happening last week, and the replies and the quote tweets being, well, what about this? What about when Evers won and the legislature just decided to take his powers away?
Yep.
What about when they voted to have Abramson removed after the standard was the most tenured justice would be the Chief Justice, and then they decided to move that and then put in the conservative Chief Justice. What were some of the other things that were thrown out over the last bit as far as...
Well, and they're not wrong.
They're not wrong.
They're not.
The craziest story I've heard so far, though, because I wasn't living here when this happened, but because this is like years and years of bitterness. And this story about conservative Justice David Prosser. Do you remember when this happened?
Refresh my memory.
So in February 2010, conservative Justice David Prosser, who retired in 2016, called then Chief Justice Shirley Abramson a total bitch and threatened to destroy her during a private conversation about a request to remove then Justice Michael Gableman from a criminal case. Prosser later said he probably overreacted because Abramson and Walsh Bradley, members of the court's liberal bloc, were, quote, masters at deliberately goading people into perhaps incautious statements.
Wait a minute.
So he's blaming them
For his bad
his
behavior.
overreaction.
Okay, so you poked me, and so I lost my temper.
I can't control my emotions, so it's your fault.
Your fault. Okay.
But again, women are too emotional.
Well,
to hold
I
these
know
positions.
we're all nuts.
Quote, this is bullying and abuse of very, very long standing, Prosser told the Journal Sentinel in 2011. Walsh Bradley also said Prosser put his hands around her neck during an altercation in her office in June 2011.
Well, she made him do that.
And then it reached an inflection point in 2015 when Republicans sought to change the way the court selects its chief justice through a constitutional amendment that voters did ultimately approve. But toxic. Do you think it's more toxic on the Wisconsin Supreme Court or the U.S. Supreme Court?
Oh, I think
Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think so too. I think
there's more camaraderie on the U.S. Supreme Court, even though they dissent a fair amount. I think that there's more of an elite air up there than some of the shenanigans that happen on the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
Well, and I also think the perks are better.
Yeah, you get an
patron.
RV. You get someone who's like, I'm going to pay for your lifestyle. Let's go.
Let's go on trips. I'm going to buy an RV for you. I'll buy a house for your mom. Life is good. We don't need any ethical codes. We're good.
So I don't know where this is all going to go. But it certainly keeps things interesting. And
do have another texter checking in from Middleton. Hello, Wes from Middleton. Seems the Wisconsin GOP doesn't like it when the left plays the game that the right invented. Hopefully this is first of lots of schadenfreude we will get to experience in Wisconsin politics.
Well, and it's interesting because that's what happened with fundraising, right? I mean, basically, for the longest time, Republicans were better at fundraising. I think that was a lot of the things behind Citizen United. It's also the things behind, Wisconsin Republicans changing what they thought would be probably behoove them as far as how much they could raise it for state races. And then they had not met Ben Wickler before. And now the amount of money Wickler has proven to be able to raise and how much the Democratic Party of Wisconsin outraises the Republican Party of Wisconsin.
And out-organizes.
And, that was their change, right? They were the ones who changed the finance laws.
Well, and now they're the ones who want to embrace mail-in voting.
Exactly.
Which I find just so...
All right. Well, let's get to a couple headlines as far as good, the bad, and the I'll believe it when I see it as we wrap up this segment. So the good, scientists achieved nuclear fusion for the second time. This goes into my bucket of why I am bullish on humans as far as their ability to innovate and create new technology that I don't know if it will save us, but it will at least continue to make the world more habitable for longer.
Hopefully won't destroy us.
Yeah. So a lab in California said it had repeated its groundbreaking achievement of a nuclear fusion reaction, this time with an even higher energy field. And why this matters is the merging of atoms could someday be a source of abundant clean energy without using uranium, creating radioactive byproducts or risking meltdowns. You look confused.
Well, I thought there's always something left over from this stuff, isn't there?
I don't know enough about it. I've actually invited Miss America, who's from Wisconsin, on because she is a nuclear physicist to come talk about it. We have not been able to secure her yet, but
she's busy. That would be my concern, is what's left over.
I think the whole point is that it is clean energy. Like, this is why it's such a big deal, is this is like, if this could actually work, this could be what we rely on.
That's great.
All right. The bad, The U.S. women's soccer team is going home.
Are you really surprised?
I did not wake up for it. I thought about it and I did not. But I don't know. I mean, if they would have played better, they probably would have been in a better position. But it's a young team. Other teams have gotten really good. The highlights that I've seen, I mean, it was literally a millimeter. Did you see what? So basically, went down to penalty kicks because I think it was 0-0, and so Rapinoe missed her penalty kick, which we'll get to that in a second. As far as certain GOP members' gleeful reaction to her, whatever, and then the fifth goal from Sweden for the fifth penalty kick was blocked by the U.S. women's goalie or goalkeep, but it still went in to the goal by literally a millimeter.
Wow.
So the goal counted.
That's painful.
It's so painful. And so that's it. That's soccer, folks. It's football.
Football.
So that sucks because, you apparently we're supposed to root for our home team, but not everyone got that memo, apparently, because there are plenty of GOP members who basically the whole go woke, go broke crew was elated to see the U.S. women's soccer team go home.
Including former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker.
And so Benny Johnson tweeted out, breaking woke U.S. women's soccer humiliation. After winning back-to-back World Cups, the heavily favored Team USA has been eliminated by Sweden in the 16th round. Team USA's downfall was delivered by anti-America, anti-woman activist Megan Rapinoe's embarrassing free kick here. And then there was another guy, dear Megan Rapinoe, we will never forget your disrespect. Sincerely, America. Because she was someone who kneeled during the national anthem. And so it's like, what is more unpatriotic? Like, demonstrating your support for Black Lives Matter or not cheering for your home team when they are on the international stage?
Don't forget, there's a whole bunch of people who really relish the idea of killing their fellow Americans because they have different opinions.
That's true, too. And then finally, if you thought it went away, it certainly has not. Musk and Zuckerberg still threatening to fight each other. So, getting to, I'll believe it when I see it. Musk and Zuckerberg fought over their fight over this weekend. The billionaire drama started when ex-owner Elon Musk said that a potential cage match between him and Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg will be live streamed on his platform and that all proceeds from it will go to charity for veterans. Over on rival app Threads, Mark Zuckerberg shot back, shouldn't we use a more reliable platform that can actually raise money for a charity?
Meow.
And claimed that Musk hasn't confirmed the August 26th date. Zuck floated, I'm not holding my breath, Zuck said. So
that's what you are. What am I?
All right. How well do you know college football? Call next, 844-967-2789. There's a lot of change in college football, and we have a quiz to go along with it. So we would love to hear from you and test your knowledge for some Brewers tickets. This is As Goes Wisconsin. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristen Bry. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. And we're giving away some Brewers tickets. So we're kind of cross-mixing sports because we are going to talk about college football and some news over the weekend and play a little quiz. But for anyone who wants to play the quiz, you will win Brewers tickets. And you don't have to get everything right. We just need you to call. So if you are confident in your college football or just college sports in general and the rallying cries of different schools, and you want to win some Brewers tickets, 844-967-2789. You will be playing for tomorrow's game. So Tuesday's game, which the first pitch is set for 7:10. We will be playing the Colorado Rockies. And as a reminder, you can always listen to the Brewers on our flagship station, Oshkosh Air Support, 98.3 FM and 1100 AM throughout the Fox Valley. And you can also catch the Brewers on WRCE News from the Center in Richland Center, 107.7 FM, 1450 AM. So if you would like to play, you can't lose. We're just going to have fun. Otherwise, I'm going to make Jane play.
And that's going to be painful
And
because I will get all of them wrong.
Yeah. And so 844-967-2789. We're talking college football. And so once again, 844-96-PARTY if you would like to play. But while
Brewers tickets, baby.
Some Brewers tickets. So while we wait for someone to call in and play with us, there's been a lot of change in college football over the weekend. So we've talked a fair amount about Badgers and knowing with the new coach, and there's been a lot of turnover, I would say, as far as new recruits and the expectation of, kind of joining the big leagues and his ability, Fickle's ability to recruit and everything. And I remember last fall talking about it with Paul Noonan, who's one of our resident sports folks who comes in and tells us things that we don't know. And I'm saying, part of the reason that we need to do this is because we are joining.
Good morning, this goes Wisconsin. This is Jane.
We are joining the there's so many people who are sorry, Jane, we can hear you. There's so many teams joining the Big Ten that we need to actually be more competitive.
Nope,
and so the ability to do that is needing to up our game. So with that, basically my alma mater, the Pac-12, has just been disseminated. Over the weekend, Oregon and Washington defected from the Pac-12 for the Big Ten, joining their West Coast peers, USC and UCLA. So now the Big Ten is coastal. Arizona and Arizona State and Utah said that they would also leave the Pac-12 for the Big 12, a decision Colorado made 2 weeks ago. So now the 108-year-old Pac-12 is teetering on the verge of collapse with just 4 schools remaining: Stanford, Cal, also known as UC Berkeley, where I went, Oregon State, and Washington State. So if you hate this, blame TV, because basically this all comes down to the deals made for TV deals. So the Big Ten and the SEC have recently secured mega TV deals that will pay their members handsomely, and the Pac-12 has not. So it kind of changes a lot of rivalries. But we have someone on the phone who wants to play.
We do. 844-967-2789. You might know this person.
Oh, okay.
It's Peter Bry.
Peter Bry. How you doing, Dad? Oh, I can't hear him.
Let's try this again. Peter, are you with us? No, the board is not working.
Okay. Yeah, because I could hear you while you were trying to talk to him on the phone.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, maybe we'll hold it and see if we can fix it at the at our longer break for the top of the news hour and play again. But maybe he'll have a meeting, so he won't be able to call again. So someone else will be able to call. But a teaser for the game that we're going to play. If you give people at college a chance to guess different college teams' rallying cries and knowing which university they come from. And so we will play that a little bit later in the hour, since it seems like we're having a hard time actually hearing people who are calling in, which, sometimes that happens. But other news that I thought was interesting over the weekend. So Barbie finally did hit $1 billion. And not only that, but now Mattel will be selling a weird Barbie doll.
A weird Barbie doll.
So that is a character in Barbie, played by Kate McKinnon, which is supposed to represent all the Barbies who were overplayed with, or played with a little too hard. So literally the Barbie looks exactly like Kate McKinnon's character. She has marker drawn on her. Her hair's been chopped off. She's constantly in the splits. But then I saw a great tweet this morning that said, what we really want is Alan. Give us Alan, you cowards. And so you still haven't seen it, have you?
I haven't.
So you don't get the joke. But Alan is the alternative to Ken, who is actually pro Barbie.
I find that very confusing.
Which part?
So is he a good guy?
Yes,
or is he,
he's a
he's
good guy.
Okay.
He's a good guy.
All right.
Played by Michael Cera.
Okay.
And so so you can now get a weird Barbie, and so now I feel like I'm very thrown off by we were going to play the game and the board doesn't work.
We're having some technical issues.
So I think we're going to go. Well, can we go to break?
We need to kill about 30 more seconds.
All right, we're going to kill 30 more seconds. This is what happens when you take 2 days off and you try to get back in the saddle. You're like, well, dust the shoulders off a little bit.
Just a little bit. And we will reset things. And then hopefully on the other side of the news, we're going to be all ready and good to go.
Yes. Coming on the other side of the news, we also are going to be talking to Ashley Inda, who is a patient advocate, talking about a new bill that would require insurance companies to cover the cost of supplemental screening and diagnostic examinations for women who have dense breasts. And so is it dense breasts or is it breast cancer? Not a very fun game to play, but one that impacts 40% of women in this state. And so we're going to be talking about what that bill means and how Ashley got into advocating for this. And then at the bottom of the next hour, what rules do you have for phone use in your house when it comes to you and your partner? This is As Goes Wisconsin. We'll be right back.